If you're anything like me, you're very selective when deciding which collectibles to buy. I'm just kidding. You're probably not very selective like I am. Anyway, this video is about if you want to collect Transformers or if you just want to watch the video to watch me. Hey, baby. Oh, this is uncomfortable. So today we're going to talk about all the different options for Transformers. And I don't mean Optimus Prime, Megatron. I mean you can get PCS, Imaginarium Arts, XM Studios, ThreeA Toys, Prime 1 Studios, and also within each of those there's different lines. And I did a bunch of research before I went down my recent rabbit hole of Prime 1 Studios movie pieces. So today we're going to look at all the different options that I looked at, and we're going to do the journey together. You and me. Hey guys, as I said in the intro, today is about which Transformers statue should I buy? Which line should I go down? Should I mix them? So we're going to talk all about the 5 major companies offering Transformer pieces right now. Little disclaimer, you know I love disclaimers. There are a lot of other companies out there doing it too, but these are probably the biggest and most popular current ones. And some of the pieces, we're not going to necessarily look at specific pieces, are already sold out, so you'll have to buy secondhand, but some are still brand new. So as I alluded to in the intro, we're going to look at the 5 big different companies that are going on right now and kind of the things they have to offer. And then we're going to do some comparisons. And I'm going to tell you how I decided to go the direction that I wanted to. So first off, let's just jump right in because there's a lot to cover. The first company we're going to talk about is ThreeA. Now ThreeA Toys, I've actually owned some of these before. From my knowledge, they do movie Transformer pieces from the Michael Bay movies, the old ones and the new ones. And these pieces are fully articulated, so some people may say they're actually action figures, but the nice thing about them is they have a decent price point right around the $500 mark, which is probably the cheapest in all the series that we're going to look at. They're about 20 inches tall, so they're a little bit smaller, and they don't really say a scale. I couldn't find that in any other literature, but if I had to guess, I'm guessing they're about 1/15, so 15 times smaller, which again, on some of my reviews I've talked about, no one really knows how big the Transformers are. So that is definitely an option for you, and we're going to look at a specific piece towards the end of this. We're going to look at Megatrons from each one just because kind of a universal character to help you go down what path you want to. But ThreeA Toys is one that won't break your bank. It's one that that are posable, which is always a huge advantage, and it's one that definitely holds its value. Some of their older pieces go for twice of what they originally were. So next pieces we're going to talk about are from PCS, or Pop Culture Shock Toys. Pop Culture Shock Toys is doing the Generation 1, kind of the original cartoon series, and they actually have 2 different scales they're doing. First is a 10-inch scale and the other a museum-inch scale. The 10-inch scale ones are about 10 inches. And the museum scales are around 25 inches. The price point on the 10-inch scale, here's some of the examples they have, around $200 to $300. So again, another good option, kind of like the 3A, even though they're about half the size. For affordable collecting, doesn't take up too much space. And they don't have a ton of characters in this or their larger options, right here, their museum scale, which these run right around $750. Still that traditional Generation 1 options for you. Now I've owned the 3A. I own some other PCS Pop Culture Shock pieces, not Transformers, but some other pieces. But I've never owned the third group here, Imaginarium Arts. Imaginarium Arts look really, really cool, but from my understanding, watching some other videos and talking to other collectors, the materials they use aren't polystone. They're plastic, a little bit cheap, but they do look fantastic. Now what they're doing is they're offering, again, a Generation 1, the original Transformers. They say that they're non-scale, and they're about 30 inches tall. And one of the reasons they're a little bit taller is because they have these huge bases with very elaborate stories, which I kind of like. It tells a story. Sometimes it's the vehicle the Transformer transforms into. Sometimes it's just some other action going on. And just like PCS, they kind of are selective of which characters they're doing, but they do have more available options. Next, we're jumping to XM Studios. And as a disclaimer, I don't own any XM Studios Transformer pieces, but I have tons of other XM Studios. Go check out this playlist right here. Tons of XM Studios pieces, non-Transformers. And I'm actually very tempted on 2 XM Studios pieces, which we'll talk about in a second. But XM Studios is doing a 1/10 scale. So they're saying it's 10 times smaller than what a Transformer would be. And these are about 25 to 30 inches on the height. And they're the traditional Transformers. And one really neat thing, each one comes with a separate piece, which is essentially what it transforms into. Megatron for a gun, Starscream a ship, and these are pretty large in size. I like this. It's not the same size as it would be in real life, but as you can imagine, that would be like 2 statues. Now, one thing we didn't talk about, Imaginarium Arts, their price point was around $1,000. These price points are about $2,000 all in, especially shipped to the US or places that they aren't licensed at. But they have some phenomenal pieces. I really like their Optimus Prime. I like that's already released. I like their Megatron that's coming out. But the 2 that really interest me is the Starscream. I want a Starscream, and I really, really like this piece. I'm so close to pulling the trigger. By the time this airs, I probably will have pulled the trigger. But the other piece that they just recently teased at Singapore Comic-Con is the Grimlock. Looks awesome. I'm worried about how big it is. That's what she said. But very, very cool piece. So XM Studios, definitely a route you can go. Now last, we're going to talk about Prime 1 Studios. And Prime 1 Studios doesn't just have one option. They're kind of the leader in the Transformers game, which is one of many reasons I decided to go with them. They have about 3 to 4 different lines, actually, you can choose from. So first, let's talk about what they call their first generation pieces. Now, they claim these are quarter scale, which is not true, so I think that's a typo on their website, but these are about 25 inches. Generation 1, the original Transformers, pretty neat. Now, also, what they're doing is they're offering gold variants of all their pieces, both the Generation 1 and the movie pieces. If you watched my Why I Went Broke under #restraint video, I'm actually tempted to get the Optimus Prime and the Megatron because their winter sale has them 33% off. They also did an offshoot called Beast Wars. Only 2 pieces. These are not scaled, but they're around the same size of the first generation, around 25 inches, where Megatron and Optimus Prime were actually dinosaurs. This is pretty cool. The Optimus Prime is still available from Prime 1. The Megatron is long sold out and flips for about twice what it's worth in different venues. The other thing they've done, their biggest line, is taking Transformers from Michael Bay's movie line, all 6 movies. So you have Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, Dark Side of the Moon, Age of Extinction, The Last Night, and then the new Bumblebee movie. And kind of interesting what they've done is they've taken some from this movie and some from this movie, and then they've also done multiple characters. So for example, I think they have 7 different Optimus Primes, and then just kind of a plethora of other characters. It's interesting to see which ones they take and which ones they don't. And I do know, I can't remember which one, Crosshairs I think it was, they actually had to cancel because they didn't get enough interest. So if you're going to go with this line, you're going to pick and choose from different movies. And if you saw my Bumblebee review, the thing about the movies is some of them look very similar from movie to movie, but some look completely different. Now, the last thing that Prime 1 is offering as an affordable option, let me back up. So those last pieces are about 30 inches tall, and they cost around $1,500 to $2,000, or $1,200 to $2,000. So now let's talk about the last thing that they're offering. A little bit more affordable option, doesn't take as much space. They're offering busts. So just like the larger statues, these are directly from the movies, and they're kind of a hodgepodge. They pick some from this movie, some from that movie, and they range from $100 to $300 each. Some people are buying these as additional accessories for the pieces I was showing you earlier, the full-size pieces. And some are just displaying these because they're a much more affordable option. So that's a lot of data, and I wanted to figure out a way to compare and contrast. I didn't want to say that, oh, they're better with the sculpt here, they're better with paint here, because it varies from piece to piece. And I can only speak for a few because I only have owned a few of those. But I thought it would be really cool. Let's look at each of the Megatrons. I think that's fair. Probably the second or third most popular character in the Transformers lines. So let's start with the 3A pieces, and there's a couple different ones. I own the one from the Revenge of the Fallen, which resells for about twice as much. And it's a great, great piece. Like I said, about 20 inches or so. Tons of articulation, a few different accessories. And they have a Last Night piece as well. Very movie accurate. Definitely a way to go. And what's ironic is these are the same two Megatrons that Prime 1 is going to offer. Well, they actually offer a lot of Megatrons, but they offer these two exact ones with bases, much bigger, made of polystone, and not movable, or posable. Posable is the right word. Pop Culture Shock Toys, this is the true Megatron that I remember from the cartoons growing up. And what's funny is the pictures of this almost looks like, to me, it looks like it's a cardboard cutout, which is kind of crazy. I even saw their Grimlock at New York Comic Con, and I didn't think it was real. I thought it was a placeholder, but it was their actual statue. And some people are really digging that. Me, not at all. But they do have a decent price point on them and definitely an option. Here's Imaginarium Arts Megatron. I really like this. I'm really tempted on this to pair against their Optimus Prime. I was going to go down that path, but I held off for some other reasons. Again, it's kind of a mix between the really classic cartoon, a little bit more modernization, and I like that. Still has the classic aspects of Megatron. It's a little bit bigger, like I said, it's about 30 inches, but it's not as big as XM Studios. Now, XM Studios, to me, this is a really modernized take on a Generation 1 Megatron, and I love it. There's cool switch outs. XM Studios is always known for their quality, their creativity, their QC process, but you're talking about twice the price of the Imaginarium Arts one. But you've heard an age-old adage, you get what you pay for. So funny. One of my companies, someone left an online review. We were awesome. We were great. We were professional, friendly, knew what we were talking about. Way too much money. And we like to talk to all the customers, so we got her information, and I really was tempted to say, we could have been late, rude, not known what we were doing, and charged 4 times less. Would that have been okay? Hashtag rant over. Now let's move to the last. So Prime 1 Studios, bunch of Megatron options. First, let's look at their Generation 1 piece. A little bit smaller. What I don't like about this one is if you're going to put it with movie pieces, it's much smaller. I've seen some side-by-side comparisons. This base is much taller, but you can still tell he's decently smaller. And then, of course, you have the gold option as well. And just like the XM Studios and Imaginarium Arts, I think this is a classic Generation 1 with some modernized tweaks on it. And then here is their dinosaur one we were talking about, the Beast Wars one. I think this is cool as hell. If this was still at retail, I would pick this up instantly, even though it's a little bit smaller. I don't like the Optimus Prime as much. You saw that earlier. I don't even know what kind of creature he is, but this is really badass. I can see why it goes for more money, so much more money than it originally was. And then here is the Revenge of Fallen one. This is a grail. This is really hard to get for under $2,500, to be honest with you. I actually would prefer this one in my collection, but so if you're selling one for under $2,500, and I don't mean $24.99, $24.98 is okay, go ahead and let me know in the comments. But I would really like one of these pieces. This Megatron, I thought he was kind of a pussy in the movies, but I liked the way he looked. And they also have one from the Last Night. And this one I do have on order. He's on a payment plan. Yes, Mr. X uses payment plans because if you can get interest-free payment plans, you should use them. Financial tip right there. So I have him on order. Really excited to get him. I actually haven't watched The Last Night in a long time, and I'm in the process of going through all the Transformers movies. So definitely an option there with Prime 1. And then we didn't look at the different busts, but so to kind of summarize, movie pieces, you're going to want to go with 3A or Prime 1 Studios if that's the route you're going. Original classic Generation 1, you really have a choice from all companies, except I don't believe 3A does that. If you want articulation and a better price point, 3A is the way to go. If you want a better price point, you're going to look at the smaller PCS ones. 3A Toys or the busts from Prime 1. If you are able to afford a bigger budget and you want the nicest ones, in my opinion, you're going to go either Prime 1 or XM Studios. And then it's a pretty easy decision. It's, do I want the movie or do I want the classic? If you want the classic, in my opinion, 100% XM Studios is the way to go. I think they've teased a whole bunch more characters too, and I've heard they're going to do Shockwave, and I think I saw a tease for Soundwave. So if you're going to get on board with this line, go with XM Studios if you like the classic. Obviously, if you like the movie and you have the cash, I'd go with Prime 1 Studios. What I'm going to end up doing, I have on order from Prime 1 Drift, as I said, the Megatron from the last night, Sentinel Prime. There's one other one. Oh, Ironhide. And I'm on the wait list for Jet Power Prime, which I'm pretty sure will convert because it's so much. And Shockwave. So what I plan to do, though, the Starscream for Prime 1, I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's hard to find anyway. So I think I'm going to go XM Studios Starscream. And I don't know how he's going to look mixed with movie pieces, but I guess we're going to find out. And then XM Studios also teased a Soundwave. So I'm really, really excited about that. And if I get the Starscream, then I'll probably go with the Soundwave. And I will also probably end up getting the Grimlock because you know me and my problem with #restraint. So if you like Transformers, I hope this video was a little bit informative, if not entertaining. It was just a video I've wanted to do for a long time, and ironically, a couple months ago, someone suggested I should do this, and it was actually on my list. I have a list of about 60 video ideas I haven't even started with. And I talked to some other YouTubers as well. Some of them do similar things. I don't let out what that list is because I don't want to be copied. No one can copy the X. That should be a tagline or something, huh? No one can copy the X? No, I don't like it. But I do like you guys. Well, most of you, except you. You're an idiot. So I'm not talking to you. Don't worry about it. I'm talking to him. I was talking about him. So have a great day, guys. Like I said, I hope I entertained you. I don't know if this video is going to do well or not, but remember what I say.